BYU hoops. Is this the hottest team in college basketball right now?
Yeah, TJ, when you and I called about, hey, what's going on in college sports this week? The transfer portal, no. Look, full stop. Everybody put whatever you're doing down, because BYU basketball is doing something that is shocking all of America. And I think the biggest note that I would make as we go into this conversation is BYU fans themselves need to understand something, need to realize something, need to come to terms with a new truth. You've got a very good basketball program. No matter who the head coach is, no matter what BYU's administration does, no matter who their NIL director is and what he says to the players. I know there were the rumors that the football players were told that they were lazy by their NIL director. I don't care. The basketball team at BYU has proven through 2 years that this is a program you can trust. And specifically this year under head coach Kevin Young, if you, a general viewer of basketball, football, sports, want to bet on a team that's going to help make you money, BYU is that team. The Cougars just went on the road, beat number 10 Iowa State in double overtime. They went on the road, beat Arizona as well. What it's time to understand is that last year's Duquesne loss in the tournament. All this, like, BYU is a great fan base for saying, like, oh, well, maybe next year. Oh, well, we kind of expect to lose it at the end, or we don't expect to win long term. This could be fool's gold, pyrite, if you will, if you know the technical term. But it's finally an era where, especially as the NIL game has improved on the football and basketball side for BYU, it's finally an era where they can step up and accept the fact that they are good at sports, that they are good at basketball. That they avoided Hilton Magic. They were up by 21 points, BYU was, against Iowa State. The Cyclones stormed back and actually had an above 50% chance to win this game when it went to overtime. And from there, BYU somehow had, like, Iowa State had stolen victory from the jaws of defeat. BYU had somehow stolen defeat from the jaws of victory, and then everything flipped from a 71% chance for Iowa State to win. Earlier, it was a 99% chance for BYU to win. Before that, it was a 90% chance for Iowa State to win. An impeccable basketball game. If you can win those on the road in a place as hostile as Ames, you can go to Arizona, win a nail biter there. 2 top 10 victories, now 22-8 on the season. The BYU Cougars are one of my favorite teams in basketball this year, especially as of late. And TJ, part of this is stunning. Like, I don't know if anybody had, after losing their head coach Kevin Pope to Kentucky, anyone had BYU this high on the radar, but they have to now.
How high up the radar are they to win the Big 12 for you?
When it comes to the Big 12 tournament, they should be number one in anyone's boat to win the Big 12 tournament. Now, obviously, Houston is still the best team overall in the conference. I think that they've got, if I had put all of my money on Houston or BYU to go deeper in the NCAA tournament, I think they are both Final Four caliber teams, but you have to side with the Houston Cougars based on what they're doing. The reason I would say BYU is a very big, great, smart pick for the Big 12 basketball tournament is their depth. I've said all season, Kevin Young, their head coach, is playing 11 guys. 10 guys. That's too many. Stop. I used to be a Pee Wee coach. The year we had 7 guys was my favorite year. The year we had 11 guys was tough because you can't rotate them in and out and get into a groove. BYU, their entire coaching staff, is now looking at me saying, you idiot. We knew exactly what we were doing the entire time by playing this many guys. And what that was creating a fresh basketball team that would still be ready come the end of the season. And that's where the Cougars sit right now. They have massive size. They've got impeccable speed. They have wily guards. They have all of those little things from March, that to me will create a Cougar squad that has the perfect cocktail to win, not just in March Madness, but to win in the Big 12 tournament. Give me BYU to win that thing because of how fresh they are. Now we'll start talking about how in the past, the winner of the Big 12 tournament doesn't go to the Final Four, doesn't win a national championship, and that's all history. But right now, I wouldn't bet against those BYU Cougars.
What does it say? We talk a lot of football, obviously, here more than anything else.
Yeah.
But what does it say about their program? Obviously, we got news about their AD, and we've talked about that in the last couple of weeks. But what does this just say about the culture of their program? It is really hard to be elite in both sports. It is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Few programs do it every year, but look at Notre Dame hoops. Look at Ohio State hoops. Look at there are some that do a pretty good job of it. But it is really hard. What does it say about their program, not just hoops, but in totality?
Well, it says a lot about BYU when on College Football Addiction, we're talking about their basketball program because they've become such a huge national story that came out of nowhere when at 1-3, that was their start in Big 12 play. They didn't have a quad one win to that point. We all kind of wrote them off. And the NBA coach, Kevin Young, who has a very large purse of NIL money, can he get it done there? I mean, when do we start to question this? And all of that is put to rest. Now sitting at 13-6 on the basketball floor in conference play, BYU has turned the heads of so many people. And you mentioned football there. It was crazy. I was in a press conference with Kim Mulkey one time, and I asked her, I was like, Coach, how does it feel that the football team is winning, the basketball team is winning on the men's side, your basketball team is winning, everybody seems to be successful, even volleyball. Does success breed success? And she kind of quipped and won off. It's like, well, we've always been successful. They're just now catching up to us. And she got offended by the question. BYU is in the opposite, but I think there's such cohesion in that athletic department. When Mark Pope left, I had inside sources at BYU who said, look, he just wasn't the nicest guy in the world. He just wasn't the easiest guy to work with. And we struggled with that, especially because his tenure there at BYU was kind of up and down. It ended on an up that was ultimately a down with a loss to Duquesne. And then Kevin Young steps in. And I've only heard glowing things about the NBA's #1 assistant turned BYU head basketball coach. It is really dangerous that, and I mention it every time we talk BYU, that the school who's the flagship of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the school who has such a big fiscal and emotional backing, would win. When that school wins, that's dangerous because it's probably not going to stop. They've got a taste of it now, and donors like to give more and more and more to see their team win. You think about, if I'm a donor and I'm paying, in this case for BYU, they have a couple who can pay $1 million per player. If I pay $1 million per player for 6 players on the basketball floor and the team goes below 500 in conference play, I'm going to stop wasting my $6 million a year. If I pay $6 million and get to see them win game after game after game and chase them into March Madness, that's when I'm going to keep my investment there. BYU has that investment in football and basketball now, meaning their athletic department is going to become, with the resources of the Big 12, one of the strongest in the entire country.
They've been fun to watch for sure, and fun enough again to where on this football channel we are talking BYU hoops with Drake C. Toll, locked on Big 12. I know that you'll continue to cover them. I know you'll continue to talk about them as we are now into March and conference tournament time is coming up quickly. Drake, where can people follow you for that? Get more of your content.
Yeah, we'll be following all kinds of March Madness stuff with the Locked On Podcast Network, and specifically with Locked On Big 12 at LO Big 12 on Twitter, or at Drake C. Toll on that same platform. And then wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube with Locked On Big 12.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Always fun. Thanks, TJ.